Okay, we are now recording. Perfect. All right, so this Greater New Orleans file just came out recently. It's the winter 2018 file, and what we've done is try to make learning the media audit really seamlessly, or seamless for you, so that you can really just get the best out of it quickly. So we're going to go and reduce down the number of options that you see on the screen down to what is really, really essential for you to be able to go and present the data. And and when I say data, not just media buying data, but just a true picture of who your own client prospects are. Be able to go and do that and delve deeply into the data file. So let's go ahead and start with sort of a macro view of a client that's envisioning home improvements. And the first report that I think is really important for everyone to start off with, because it does present like a really high level view. Instead of getting into the thicket and the details, you're getting a high level view of who your client is. Under here, and there are so many different ways in the media audit to profile a client, but in here, this is probably my favorite to start with. So if you click on this, it's one of those reports where you have an option to either profile a media or target. So let's just go ahead and profile someone who's looking at some home improvements. And I want to point out, this is why I wanted to start with this type of target for today's session. I want to point out what we've done with home improvement. We've not just looked at someone who's planning a home remodeling project in the next year, but we detail what they've done in the past 12 months, and it's specific. It's large projects such as bathroom and kitchen remodels, it's additions, it's smaller things that are just, sometimes maintenance issues, but a quick way to maybe freshen up a home. So landscaping, interior, exterior paint, roofing repairs, necessities too are in here, plumbing, roofing repairs. So you have all of that kind of stuff. And then you have what do they plan to do in the next 12 months. So historic and future seeking home improvements, and then what are they spending? So that's really why I wanted to kind of look at this target. So let's look at this. I'm going to go and collapse my GoToMeeting panel right there so I can see this screen full size with you as well. And I am going to open up PowerPoint, because part of the thing I want to stress today when we're doing the training is the fact that you can make this an easy way of communicating your findings to your clients. So it's not just let's go and use this effectively so you can get all of that knowledge, but how do you make this work for you? So if you're time pressed, which I imagine you are, because most of us are, you can, just quickly move on and get what you need to your own clients. So this is all of New Orleans, and we are looking at adults 18 plus. We really never look at anyone below that age, because we're looking for folks that move the needle for your own clients or prospects, right? Someone who's going to move market share, meaning they're able to buy goods and services. So 18 plus, the start of, them earning, is why we look at 18 plus. And of course, we don't need to look at permissions for those that are younger than 18. We would do that if we were looking at younger folks. So there's 1.3 million adults in the New Orleans greater metro area, which the greater metropolitan area equates to what Nielsen calls a DMA. It's exactly the same thing. DMA is, I believe, copyrighted, so we can't use that term. So we have our own term, but it is the exact same thing. So in that DMA, there's 40% of all of the adults envisioning a home improvement. So, 500,000 people, a little over 500,000 people. They skew female, and these are percent comps, meaning if I add these together, you get to 100%. So any of these breaks would add up to 100%. And you can see, they look like a good type of prospect because there's nice education, the predictor for income, and you do see that the income is nice. And we could see what the average household income is here if we simply go to options and set that to mean. So some of this is a review, but I want to kind of stress some of the things you can do to go and make this report a little bit more personal and something that folks, your clients, will understand. Because average household income, which is what this represents, is probably something that your client would be more familiar with. You can, like I said, clip this in straight into a PowerPoint. I do want to make some cosmetic changes so you know how to do this. I'm going to go back into options and I'm going to toggle the background color here and make it white just so that when you're clipping this into PowerPoint, you can have it match up with the rest of the reports, because mostly all our reports are featured on white backgrounds. So you might just not want to see this one report, this profiling report, looking any different from the rest of the report. So very quick, you get it into the PowerPoint and you can move on. One of the things you can do, though, is sometimes you're not looking at the greater metro area. You can limit this down. You can maybe look at just homeowners, which you would find under the general base here. So general bases are any kind of demographics, from homeowners to true ages, to incomes, to tenure in this geographic area, in this DMA, tenure of time that they've been here, how long have they lived in this area, how long have they lived in their home. You can do all those kind of things. You can look at zip code areas and geographical areas where you could limit this back down to the core metro area, which is a smaller area, denser, where the goods and services are predominantly, featured or sold. You see that. You can do that. You could go down to a parish level. This is probably the only DMA in the U.S. where you see parishes instead of counties, but there are counties also in this DMA. So you have county and parish level in geographical areas. So you can do all of those fun things and kind of make it more to what you need for your own clients. So you get this good macro view of these home improvement prospects. And one of the things I noticed, because I was looking at this age breakout, is I was noticing that this 18 to 49 nearly mirrors the image of 50 on up, right? Age 50 up. And I was kind of thinking to myself, this is really neat that they're spread out throughout all of the age breaks, but I have no true sense of really where the sweet spot is. So this is not a report that's going to tell you the sweet spot, but as with everything, if someone is bringing it up in a training session, I'm going to address this. So there's some great reports later on that we're going to see that will address sweet spots. Crosstabs, I think, is the first thing that folks think about when they're thinking about how to find sweet spots, which roughly translates into where do you see things index well, which age break indexes well, what gender index as well. And that's true. The crosstab is good, but there is an intermediate report that's even better that can get you a little warmed up before you get into crosstabs and you get into the thicket of all that detail that we want to avoid initially. So now that we have an overview of who these folks are, before I find sweet spots, I want to know how to reach out to them. So start here, get an overview of them, then move to this report here. There are other reports, again, that talk about mediums, but I like this one. And I like this one because what you're going to see is how this target is spending time with the various mediums, daily minutes, so you really get a sense of how many minutes this target is spending with, radio, TV, whatever it may be. The two reports you want to focus on are these two top reports here. In this report, what you're going to see is radio, you're going to see TV, you're going to see outdoor newspapers, but TV is clumped together. Okay, so you're going to have TV, the network or broadcast TV clumped together with cable and satellite, and that might not be good because you're not going to buy those together as one lump sum. You're going to go to different entities to reach out. Maybe you're going to have a cable buy, you're going to have a network buy. So you really want to start with this one most likely, okay? And when you come here, you're going to see everything, the radio, the newspaper daily minutes, and you have various views to go and present to your client. And we do that because not only will we present you with redundancy in terms of targets, if you were ever to go and search our targets, you're going to see a lot on affluence. There's even 9 variables about buying cars, and you saw the umpteen variables about home improvement. We do that because you have a specific mission for your client. We want you to be able to fulfill that. To give you options helps you be able to do that. So we give you all these views because there's going to be a particular view that's going to resonate for the goal of what you're, the goal of the project that you have for your client. And in this case, I'm going to start here first because I want to talk about the richness of the detail in this report. And I like this because it gives you that detail. There are two other reports I want to highlight, this one and that one, in just a second, but let's come here and just kind of review what this is saying. So this is the daily minutes for all the adults. Whenever it says total market and my base is set to adults 18 plus, it's all the adults. Now, had I set the base to something different, a metro area, it would be the metro area adults. And then of course a base layers through to the target. So even though the target is anyone envisioning a home improvement, if this is metro area adults, then it's metro level adults considering home improvements, okay? And so these are their daily minutes, and we can sort these columns. Sorting here will sort it in the report order, how it came out when you generated that report. Sorting any of these numerical columns sorts in descending order, and it's nice to sort it this way because you can kind of quickly at a glance see where someone who's considering a project is spending most of their time, with internet, with radio, with broadcast TV. Whenever you do sort, note that this is going to go and turn a darker color. So we could have sorted on indices and said, okay, where are people that are considering a home improvement project, where are they spending more time in relation to the market? This is not the most amount of time, because the most amount of time is obviously, with internet. That's where they're spending the most amount of time. But comparing it back to the market, only 49 minutes for market adult spent exposed to billboards. But with someone envisioning home improvement projects, it jumps to 55 minutes, which is just simply, this index is saying simply that these minutes are 12% greater than the market minutes. That's what that index is saying. So you can do all of that, and it's nice to, I'd probably sort on, the amount of time that they're spending, and then look off to the right and see if, these two areas index well. Internet and radio do. So a lot of minutes being spent here, and, over market minutes. So great, that's nice. Now, what if your client is, hey, I've used internet before, I don't like internet. This is where I like this report or the pie report, because what you're doing here, let's go back to the bar report, what you're doing here is, by switching out the colors, maybe making everything gray and pronouncing radio and internet, you can quickly lead your client to understand, even though they may be dead set against internet or maybe dead set against radio, you can say to them, maybe it's something you should consider again, because out of their entire media day, they're spending 24% of their time with internet. It might be a really good way to communicate out to this target. And again, clipping it straight into, the PowerPoint. Now, we're building the story. We defined who the target was. We're talking about how to reach out to them. You can make changes to things, such as colors or even titles by, once you load a graph, or once you have an active report with a big graph, meaning this whole page is taken up with a graph, you can do things and make that graph a little bit more focused, talk about what this graph is talking about. So the target title, home improvement, prospects, and time spent with various mediums might be a little bit better than that title. So those two things out of the way, I still am burning and trying to figure out, who am I talking to? I don't really understand. I got a sense that it was spread out amongst all of the age groups, these home improvement prospects, but I want to know a little bit more about them. So where is that sweet spot? Before we go into crosstabs, quickly, this can guide you and maybe, jog some new ideas in your head so that when you get into crosstabs, you're not overwhelmed with the data and you have an idea of what you want to delve into. So let's go into special reports, target market profile, hit OK here. What you're now seeing is, that macro overview of what a person looks like. You get a gender breakout, you have an age breakout, you have income, education, you got all of that. But for your target, home improvement, you're comparing it back to the market. So you now can see, even though 50 plus represents exactly half, it does. 18 to 49 is exactly half of all home improvement prospects, and 50 plus is exactly half of all home improvement prospects. Sorry. You can see that your sweet spot is now the younger folks, which probably gut instinct wise you knew that, right? Because someone who is older, more established, better income stream, maybe even better savings, they've plunged into home ownership, and maybe they've also been homeowners for a while, so the home needs updating. There's a lot of reasons your gut was telling you it was going to be the older folks that were the sweet spot, but now concretely you can go back to your client and tell them that. And you could clip this report, again, screen capture, put it in here, and say, this is what they look like. It's now highlighting the area that I'm, showing on my screen here. I've highlighted that this is the sweet spot. But what if, showing them the whole thing about gender, ethnicity, it's kind of muddying the water. Maybe all you wanted to show them was, I want you to understand where we need to, what is the age break we need to go after, because age break may dictate how your creative speaks to the prospect, what kind of messaging you're putting out there. So you don't want to show everything. I don't want to do screen clip. You copy to the clipboard, okay, you bring it into here, and now you can just focus on age groups, and maybe, you draw a little shape around that. And again, pronounce out the fact that it's the older age breaks that make sense for this type of, client that you're going after. Okay, so we have an idea of these folks. And I said a couple of reasons. I said maybe these are folks that have been homeowners for a while, so now I have a new thing to investigate. Are folks considering any kind of home improvement project, someone who's established in a home, the home is older, so it makes sense. Or maybe these are new home buyers. What is it about these people? Why this older age range? So that's where you can go into the crosstab and you start investigating things. And the core crosstab, the one you will really come back to over and over again, is once you load this menu up, it's in this left hand side of the menu, and it is this top button. And that's why we placed it there, to be honest, okay? So, as I've moved through or navigated through any of these reports, you've seen that my primary target continues to load automatically. And again, it does here too. It recognizes that the thing I want to know about, my primary target, is a home improvement prospect. And just so you know that this is your primary screen, look in the lower right corner. If you don't see a clear all or select all, button, you are definitely talking about the audience, the population, the people you want to know about. So I'm going to OK this. And now in the target selection screen, which looks exactly like that first screen, which is why I was stressing, look to the bottom right and look for select all and clear all buttons. This is the mud you want to throw against the wall. What do I want to know about home improvement prospects? I throw mud against the wall. Are they new to the area? Are they older residents? Are they younger people, older people, affluent people, folks with kids? Maybe they're new to having kids, and so the additions are happening. It could be all sorts of things that you want to know about them. So we could select everything. And if you do, this is why I was talking about this could be a thicket of, details. You have 19 pages worth of detail here. A lot of detail. So we'll reduce it down, but before I do, let's just review how to read this report. Because initially, as you switch back and forth between your days, you guys all know how to read this, but, quickly in a pinch, if someone puts you on a spot, it might be one of those things where you have to kind of reflect quickly. So if that's something that happens to you, because it does to me, I like to show you the ways that I kind of, get back into, okay, I'm back, put my data cap on, how do I look at this report? So 1.3 million, all the adults in the marketplace, there's that number there. So quickly now you know that base persons are all the adults in the marketplace, And if the base was different and it was metro, then it would be metro level adults. And then you would see how they break out amongst genders. And, as you go down, you're going to see age and tenure in the city and what kind of homes they, have, higher end homes, lower end homes, all of that kind of stuff you're going to see. So that's what this is telling you right here. Primary persons, let's look at that number. That's all of the adults here in this target person area that is envisioning, all the adults envisioning a home improvement project. So bam, now you know what primary persons are. So home improvement prospects as they break out for all of these categories. Okay, so we can see that 44, or let's round up, 45% of them are males, there they are, and 55% are females. So vertical percents are percent comps, and horizontal percents are percent penetration. So let's look at this. Remember we saw before that, home improvement prospects, a little bit more female. Well, in fact, they index female. And that was in that target profile report we just saw, but I didn't key in on that. But there's that index, okay? And why do I know they're going to index better? Well, 40% of all adults are planning a home improvement, but 43% of anyone who is female is planning a home improvement. You can sort these things. You can sort it this way and look at all of these people that are planning home improvements. If you sort on horizontal percent, your indices will sort in descending order, meaning that these are positively correlated, okay? This is percent penetration. The higher percent penetration, the higher the index. That's how this report works. And you can say to yourself, I want to just see, the targets that index well for folks that are considering home improvement prospects or projects, sorry. Those are two words that are going to trip my tongue up. So I'm going to find new words for those so I stop tripping my tongue up on those two words. But doing that already will take your 19-page report down and limit the data. And so it does make it more usable. The nice thing about these people, thinking about a project, okay, is that they are, seemingly affluent. Anyone making 200K plus, 55% of them are planning a project. Yay, that's great. That's a beautiful thing to know about. But let's go back to some of the questions I had when I was thinking about why the older age breaks. So one of the things you can do, okay, is you can go back to targets, you can clear everything out, and you can search for things like, I want to know if they have high income. You can start making lists of things you want to know about them, years that they've lived in the city. I can make all of these searches and collect these items, and it's towards the bottom. Years they've lived in the city, years they've lived at their current address, so I can see if it's an older home. I can make all of these things, and once I've collected all those items, I can actually save things. So let's say I am doing this. I can then save a set simply like that and never have to redo that set again, especially if you're kind of thinking about this, and then you want to come back to your colleagues in the office and say, here's some thoughts I had. I saved my set. Let's look at this together. What do you think? This is something I want to present to the prospect. So once I have done that, I did this type of homeowner. And, this is a lot easier to look at than even 12 pages of data, which might have been what you would have seen if you had just, eliminated all of the lower indices. A lot of data still to go and plow through. But this now, I get a sense, okay, they're affluent. I love this. They're people that are planning to buy a home. So maybe what they're doing is the kids are gone, they're moving down, a more affordable home. Maybe they keep the old home, need improvements, rent it out. Or, the new home needs improvements. It's kind of interesting to know this. Is the value of the home really high? I can sort on this. And in fact, the folks with the highest indices are those that have the highest priced homes. The higher that percent penetration, the more likely these folks are envisioning a project. And they are 85%. Because there's only 25,000 people that own a home that is worth $500,000 or more, and 85% of them, or 21,000, are planning a home improvement project. They are twice as likely as the typical market adult actually more than twice as likely than the typical market adult to be considering that. So that's really interesting. We can kind of delve deeper into the people that have this type of home, by price point, and see what kind of project they're envisioning. You can, sort on percent comp and say, hey, isn't this interesting? Someone doing a project? Well, they might be DIYers because 63% of them are going regularly to Home Depot, Lowe's, and, I don't know, picking up the lumber themselves or the locks or the paint or whatever it is that they're doing to spruce up their home. So, you start getting an idea by delving into this thicket of details of what it is that you need to, in your communications to the prospect, what is it that you're stressing? Is it a lot about paints? Is it a lot about DIY? Is it a lot about really nice projects? Because, gosh, if they have a home that's valued at $500,000 or more, might be doing some really nice projects. So there is one last thing I think we did here. One thing I want to point out is don't be afraid to look at renters too. This is true in more established cities. 80% of those planning a project, yeah, they are homeowners, but almost 20%, 19% to be honest, are renters. And that might be simply because they've been in that home for a while. It's a great location to live in, close to work, great, in terms of where they are at in the city. Maybe they're also close to a lot of the events in the city. And, places like Boston, New York, there are people that are in rent-controlled environments that definitely don't want to leave, but want to reach out to a landlord and communicate that they want to go and spruce up some things, and landlords will agree and they'll do it. So just know that is something that you can also see. Now let's go and look at someone that has a high home value. So we could look at folks that have this type of income, but we're really looking at folks with a home value. So let's scroll down. Whenever I do a search, you've noticed here that when I do a search, it is resulting in everything that is having the characters 500. Okay, so it's not a Google kind of search, but it's an exact key search. So do know that when you're doing these searches. So there's a market home value, $500,000 or more. I might have enough sample here. I might not. So let's check this out. I think I'm going to end up widening this, but let's look at these folks. I'm going to clear this out. I don't care about how long they've lived in the area. I want to know what kind of improvements they've done. And again, I made, quickly by searching a save set that I can refer back to quickly and see what these folks are like. Okay, so it looks like, again, 85% of them are planning any home improvement. We saw that earlier in the percent penetration. Now, because this is the focus of what I'm looking at, it's saying of these people, 85% are planning a home improvement, and there's the 25,000, that are folks that have this home value, and 21,000 of them are planning a home improvement. I wanted to see if this is enough sample. Let's just go ahead and show the sample size on the screen. Okay, I have 13 respondents. Okay, that's how many people that have this kind of home. Okay, we do have files where we'll combine a data set for the winter with a data set that was previous. I think it was like a summer data set for New Orleans. So you'll have larger sample and you'll be able maybe to investigate that type of homeowner in that file because you're looking at like 1,600 respondents. In this case, we have 800 respondents. It's not robust enough for this level of analysis. So we're going to widen it out. We can do, homeowner 400,000 plus on homes or 300,000 plus. Let's just be conservative and do 300,000 plus. Okay, here's what I wanted to see. I want to see a respondent level of 66. 25 respondents, but here I have 66. So 25 is the limit. Don't go below 25, and the sample, the base sample should never go below 250. I am robust on both ends. I'm good. 25, 250, solid here. And by the way, this is not all the home improvements. This is just the home improvements where this type of homeowner indexed well, because remember we set this option up and we showed only the values greater or equal than 100. Let's look at everything so we can, sort on everything and just get a sense of what they're looking at. Really, it's landscaping, and it's these things are always key, to people, because they're so quick to do. It's not a big outlay on cash, so you'll understand why they're doing this. But this is, again, trying to figure out how to communicate to them and getting the widest sample of people that you're going to go and reach out to. You do want to have robust samples. And look at this. This may not be as sexy as you thought it would be, but it's still where, most of the money is going to be spent. In terms of large projects, is it bathroom or kitchen remodels? Typically, in most markets, always bathroom will win out over kitchen, just because this is a little less pricey than kitchen. But I have seen some cases where that is turned around. But these are, obviously the sexy projects that people are looking at. So everything is on here. We get a sense of who these folks are, but now we have to reach out to them, and we have to choose a specific radio station, a specific internet site. I want to know about that, because that was where they were spending the most time. So we're done with crosstabs. We've done that analysis. We know who they are. We know what they look like. We found sweet spots. We found things about them to go and steer our creative, but we have to figure out how to place the buy. And this is it. So here is where you're going to really reside when you're trying to place a buy. Rankers and composite averages are really the two reports I do use, and there is one in here that we're going to delve into. Okay? So ranker, my favorite. This is where I would start. And by the way, when you're looking at selecting all radio stations, this is the easiest way to do it. Select a category, go radio station, scroll on down before you get into trombos and combos, and later on it's clusters and internet radio. Look at where the stations, which will be alpha sorted, and they're just mentioned on their own singly. Now this is because there's a retransmission that occurs, so they're always going to be shown lumped together when there's a retransmission that occurs of. But two different radio stations, two different formats comboed together, I don't want to see that. I just want to see the performance of a unique station, and I have to choose the best station. So it's better to do it that way. So you can do that, and you could even do it for internet, cable, any of that stuff is in here. Newscasts, morning, midday, early evening. You have so many different ways to look at the data. By the way, once you've done this and never want to do it again, you save a set again, and you can do this just like you did for targets. You can do that for mediums. So I already did that, because the two best ways to reach out to this audience was radio and internet. So I've done both radio and internet. I've got it saved. I'm hitting OK. I don't want to look at folks with high, home values. I want to look at folks with projects. Okay, so here we go. And there we go, back into here. And there are a variety of different reports. These arrows get you back and forth between the reports. It's always the best report. I had my favorite in the media day analysis. My favorite here is this one. And the reason I like this one is because I'm going to see the best reaching, vehicle. It's NOLA.com. I think radio stations don't start until slot 9. Okay, but and it's really not fair to put radio and internet together. I just did it because it's nice to be able to show you ways to make this program quick and easy, such as save sets. And then there's another reason, but we're coming to that. So number one reaching vehicle, NOLA.com, really strong there on the CUME persons. CUME for web is 30-day. Most often is 7-day. For radio, it's 7-day for CUME and average day. So we're following industry norms. Okay, this is the industry norm. That's what we follow. The index is high, meaning, again, only 40% of the market envisioning a project, but amongst the NOLA.com audience, it's 50%. Okay, so I've got large reach and I have an interested audience. Two things I want to see. So I'm always going to want to see high reach, high indices. And the last thing I want to see, and why this report view is my favorite, is a high conversion ratio. Simply put, it's, hey, in a month's time, they reached 233,200 prospects. Great. Home improvement prospects. I love it. So of these 30-day prospects, how many are returning to the site on a weekly basis? 174,000. So that means 75% of the 30-day users are coming back to this site, on a weekly basis. Great. There's loyalty. There's frequency of messaging. Beautiful. 3 things you want to see. Okay. But you might want to know whether or not you want to buy too deep on internet, or do you want to buy this and a couple of the radio stations? How do you effectively buy deep without duplicating too much of the audience and having too much overlap? Okay, this is the second reason I wanted to put radio and internet together. And here's where we come to Ad Campaign Planner. Come into that, just simply that Ad Campaign Planner. You click on the button and then click on Ad Campaign Planner a second time, hit OK. It remembered all of the stations, all of the websites, and I come into here, and what I'm seeing is the best radio station at the top, the best reaching, followed by the second best reaching. I scroll down, best reaching internet site, second best reaching. But what I'm seeing here is, again, cum reach, and you see, the persons, the percent reach, but this third column, this number now indicates to me whether I should buy too deep. And it looks like I could. I really could. Because if I were to add these two up, this would probably be 43%. And that would assume 0 duplication between these 2 radio stations. There is a little bit of duplication because I don't get to 43%, I get to 41%. So buying too deep, do I lift up on the campaign and get from 23% reach to, yeah, I do. I'm lifting up. I get to 41% reach now. So same thing here. I don't know if it's really worth it because I would expect to get to about 70% reach, not getting there. Only seeing a lift up of about 9 points. So I've already answered the question. Probably 1 website, 2 radio stations. Great. Let's clean the report up, right? We don't want everything selected here. So I'm going to click on this. That's something I wanted. QUE. There it is. Hold my control key down so I can grab that. Don't want to scroll through the whole list and, make it hard for myself. So just a quick search for NOLA. I've got all 3 now. Hit OK. This is now what I'm thinking I want to do. Oh, sorry. My media that I chose here, that was not radio stations. I don't want those. I want radio stations. So let's do a search and do a QUE search and make it simple again. Look at that. Come back in here. The report is less muddy. I mean, you can't definitely give something like that to clients, just too much detail. I see, I can lift up to 41% with radio. I have 43%. So this is just unique to radio, unique to website. And again, it's reiterated here. And this is just a summary because you could have gone 5 deep on web and 7 deep on radio, and you would want to see a summary for each. So 41% reach, 43.7, almost 44% reach with web. Do I lift up from the radio campaign? Yeah, about 20, 22 points. Okay, so web is probably merited. You should probably buy 3 deep. Okay, definitely. All right, but we were talking about, keeping the basis solid. If someone, for whatever reason, wanted to look at NOLA.com and, they were looking at folks that are envisioning plumbing projects, and they had to see someone that has been in the home for quite some time, so 10 years or more. You want to make sure when you're looking at these reports that you have enough sample. So again, show the sample size, 19 respondents, again, 25 here, 250 is what you're looking there. I'm good on the base. I'm a little lean on the respondent level. So maybe what I want to do is not layer things together and narrow it down using bases. Maybe I'm okay with seeing the individual performances of these 3 different, the website, the 2 radio stations for a bunch of different things. Like, here I did remodel bathroom, remodel kitchen, home improvement. The composite average, what it allows you to do is to show more than one target. So now we can say someone who's been in the home for at least 10 years, they're in a good valued home, the price point of the home is good, so it might be a nice project that they're envisioning. We see overall, if they're envisioning any kind of project, and then the sexy projects are there here, are listed there. So what we're seeing is we have a report on CUME ratings or reaches, and on indices, you're seeing that NOLA.com reaches 46% of bathroom remodelers, 58% of kitchen remodelers, 44% of home improvement. So that's what these target, and the labels here refer back to. So you can see individually that, NOLA.com was at the top of the list just strictly for a project, but it actually ranks top of the list for many of these projects. I can make sure I sort on any of this. And yes, NOLA.com, resoundingly #1 reaching vehicle. The composite average just averages these and, tells you whether or not, that is, it's trying to summarize the data. So it averages this, and it is good in some respects. It's bad in other respects. And here's why it's bad. Okay. There is a big disparity between years lived at the present address and the sexy project of kitchen remodel. And because of that, an average is hiding that low and that high. So if you don't want to see it, you can collapse it just like Excel and get rid of it. But sometimes you want to quickly glance to the data. So it is good because it's going to lead your eye to what may be the #1 vehicle for reach of these, related items, but they are disparate. They're not the same thing. Okay. We are set, and I ran over because we started a little bit late, but I do want to open up the session to questions. Do you have any questions, anyone? No? No questions?
No questions.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone's time. I hope I helped you understand, how to quickly navigate this and get the best results for yourself. And how to reach out to me. It's through the 1-800 number. Feel free anytime to reach out to me, 324-9921. And then my email address, which I will put quickly on the slide that I had up, is, let's just get this open so you can reach out to me anytime. SDH Heath, SD Heath at themediaaudit.com. And sorry, let me go and collapse my little panel back out so you see that. And then, 800-324-9921. Please reach out to me. Anything you need to uncover from, you've already done the bulk of the work and you just want to see if there's a few things I can add to it to make your work maybe a little sharper. It's probably already sharp, but I might add another perspective. Please reach out to me. We just want to walk through the analysis from the start to the finish. I'm good with that too. I'd love to help.
We appreciate your coming, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you all.
Thank you.